this is an album you really have to get your game face on for. This is something where you need some intense preparation, whether it be calisthenics, whether it be some sort of brain puzzle that you need to solve, because this is an album that definitely is going to take you through a journey. And to be perfectly blunt, it's only the first part of the journey. That's right, it's time to get back into the Shadow Gallery discography. And the logical place to go after the most recent release that I did, which is of course Carved in Stone, is the next one, Tyranny. Now, Tyranny was released in 1998, just 3 years after Carved in Stone. So this is already kind of a little bit of a breach of etiquette, considering it didn't take nearly as long for this particular release to come out. However, this is also the most ambitious release that Shadow Gallery had crafted to date, because this is an album that's going to be a concept album from front to back, from start to finish, instead of it just merely being one song, as we saw in Carved in Stone or in their debut, which was of course self-titled. Instead, this is an album that is done in 2 acts that spans 14 tracks. And I'll actually predate any sort of description that I'll give by giving you quite simply the titles of the songs here on the album. We have Stiletto in the Sand, War for Sale, Out of Nowhere, Mystery, Hope for Us, Victims, and Broken, which compose Act Number 1, which is 7 tracks. And then the final 7 tracks, which compose Act 2, are I Believe, Roads of Thunder, which is really done in 3 parts, Spoken Words, New World Order, Chaste, Ghost of a Chance, and Christmas Day. Now, the reason why I pay such special mind to the Act 1 and the Act 2 of this particular affair is mostly considered this is a story that, while there's a very, very big story told within this release, it was not completed until Room V or Room 5, however you wish to claim it, which did not come for another 8 years or so. So this is almost like you listen to an entire album, it's almost like a cliffhanger, so to speak. You really don't know what the resolution is whenever you hear the end of this record. And here's exactly why. Let me get into the plot of this concept album. The plot definitely centers around this man who formerly used to work for the government in order to design weapons of mass destruction. So right away, you know that this man is extremely intelligent. He has a high degree of intellect at his side. He really knows his stuff. He's not completely aware, however, of the loss of innocent lives with these particular items, so it becomes sort of a disillusionment for him. He figured that he was doing this for the betterment of country, for the betterment of the United States of America, and he thought that this was all for the good of the world. But instead, he's getting disillusioned at the fact that what he is doing is actually causing harm to society. It's actually causing harm to the worldwide population, and that it's only being done to fund war, which kind of goes in with the first legit track of the album that has any sort of lyrics, which is of course War for Sale. And you kind of get that idea that this man is starting to really feel that this is just not for him. You know, this is something that he really can't be a part of. Well, he doesn't have to be a part of it for very much longer, because it then seems as though he was fired from this particular position. And now he really becomes isolated. He's not quite sure he understands what exactly he was doing, and he kind of feels a lot of guilt for that. However, he was able to find a lot of solace where all of us are finding solace right now. That's right, the internet. Yeah, this is one of those albums. He's talking in this internet chat room. He meets somebody who we can only assume is either a man or a woman. We're not too sure. And there's a lot of argument, there's a lot of conversation about the system. You definitely hear the back and forth in the lyrics here. And it really boils down into Hope for Us, which is where his perception of reality is starting to shatter a little bit. He's wondering if there really is hope for us. Is there hope for us as a society? Is everything ever going to be kind of that simple, that very comfortable state in which we experienced it in the past, that we really kind of founded this country on, where it was something of very simple value? And he's not really too sure. And this is a question that I think has boggled a lot of us throughout the years, and it's one that really doesn't have a definite answer, even in this date of 2010. Victims, of course, is next. This kind of puts you outside of the chat room. You see somebody getting mugged, and he rushes to kind of be a good Samaritan, kind of do, you know, those values that were always taught upon us, that if somebody's in trouble, you should help them. And he ends up getting hurt himself and rescued by a humanitarian group. And he wonders if there's a savior that is going to come and save the victims of this world, and who that savior really is, because he really doesn't feel that this humanitarian group is whatsoever. he's starting to feel much more lonely, much more broken, which of course segues into the next track. He's still extremely just downtrodden about the fact that he feels that he's been blinded this whole entire time about everything that he had been doing. He's not really too sure what he's going to do now, so what does he do? He goes back to his former life before trying to take on the role of Samaritan and goes back to the computer. And as it starts to go on, he starts to continuously speak with this person whom we later find out is a girl, is a woman, and is being, it's set up and it is determined and it is revealed that he is very much deeply in love with this woman. This is almost like the one person that he has where he feels perhaps that little sense of hope, that sense that, there's something that they could do. However, he feels that the best way to do this is by taking over that which he himself was a part of. He wants to create a computer virus to bring the network down in flames, so to speak. He wants to crush the government that crushed him, so to speak, and that he feels is doing wrong to the world. And so you kind of get this idea that he's doing that, but even after he completes this task, he feels that he may still be lonely. And this is all done throughout Roads of Thunder. And he still really wants to talk to this girl by phone. She is extremely hesitant. However, finally, it happens. And in spoken words, you get the conversation between these two, which is brilliantly portrayed by Mike Baker and Laura Yager. And this is, of course, the revelation that he's deeply in love with her and he doesn't want to abandon her. However, she talks of treason. She's speaking very cryptically, so to speak. And it is revealed that there has been somebody monitoring him all along. There is a government agent that is brilliantly vocally represented by D.C. Cooper. D.C. Cooper's a fantastic singer. Definitely check him out. He's being monitored. He's being wiretapped all along. I mean, it makes perfect sense. He's a former government employee. He has all this information. And now he's going to, try to take down the machine with a computer virus. And now he's on the run. So you can definitely tell with the track Chased, which is which is track number 12 in this particular release, that he is being chased and being forced to flee to on parts unknown, so to speak, which in Ghost of a Chance we reveal is somewhere in North Dakota. And he feels that he's failed. He's failed, and he feels that the world is lost. And the only thing that he has left to really desire for and hope for is a safe home, which at this point he seems to really have in North Dakota. And here's what I'm talking about with the cliffhanger, so to speak. Last track, Christmas Day, we almost get somewhat of a recollection of sorts by this man. He misses Christmas days of past, or he really longs for a Christmas day with his love, but only to find out that he is all alone. He's on the run. He has basically nothing. So this is really a dismal way for this album to end. This is something that you really don't expect, something that rarely happens. You typically have an album that experiences some sort of resolution at the end, and this is why I think a lot of fans really believe that this was going to be a two-part affair, and of course it became a two-part affair, which we'll get to later on in this particular chronology. As far as the music of this particular album is concerned, it's a very, very solid, steady album from front to back. And the one thing that you have to remember is that this is the first opportunity, the first chance that they really took of doing a complete concept album from front to back. And this is not necessarily a very easy thing to do. Sometimes creating a story and putting music to it is not always a very simple task, because not every single track is going to be of one particular variety. So if you like only one variety of Shadow Gallery sound, this may not be particularly an album that you may find to be all that great. However, if you do have an appreciation for the multi-dynamic talents that this band possesses, this album is a very, very good starting point for albums that would come later, and especially if you're going to listen to this coupled with Room 5, it really makes a lot more sense. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be blunt. Room 5 to me is a much more superior album, mainly because Room 5 for me is also absolutely my favorite album by Shadow Gallery, so I'm a little biased. However, if you listen to both of these side by side from Act 1 all the way to Act 5, it goes very, very well together, it streamlines perfectly, and the progression of the story is very well documented. So this is something that they expertly were able to craft together. I'm going to say that in this reviewer's humblest opinion, Room 5 is vastly superior to Tyranny. However, with that said, it's best for me to actually leave the floor open to you to make that decision. Is Tyranny the better record because it sets up Room 5, or is Room 5 just the better record because of the stronger material and because of the resolution of the story? I want you guys to let me know. Because personally, in my eyes, Room 5 is it. Room 5 is the definitive Shadow Gallery album, so I almost just gave you a spoiler as to how that review is going to go. I'm going to be all over it. I'm going to love it. However, Tyranny, no slouch either. Definitely a strong album. However, I want to know what you think. Do it in a video response. Really engage. Really engage in this. Do it in a video response. If this is your first time listening to it, that's even better. I want first impressions. I want 30th impressions. I want it all. So send me a response, whether it be by video or by comment. I would really prefer by video for this one because it's kind of an interesting little parallel since it's a concept album. I want to know what you have to think. I like it. Let's do it. Let's move on.